Today on 10-Minute IT Jams, we have Guillaume Meister, who is the Solutions Architect Manager for ANZ for MongoDB. So welcome to the jam, Guillaume.
Hey, thank you, Nick. Thank you for welcoming me. I'm super happy to have this chat with you.
Perfect, cool. So I've got a pretty simple question for you at the start. So could you just give me a quick overview of what MongoDB does?
Yeah, absolutely, I can do that. So MongoDB is what we call today a cloud company. We've been on the market for 10 years, and our main purpose is to help companies develop and maintain their competitive advantage by using data and using data through applications. So we provide to this company an application data platform. And when I say companies, we're talking about around 29,000 customers as of today, globally, in more than 100 countries. And specifically in Australia and New Zealand, I think we have about maybe 1,000 customers, including very large companies and banks, but down to mid-market, corporate, game companies. I think every day you're probably using applications on your phone that are using MongoDB technology.
Cool, very cool. So what does MongoDB solve? What challenges does your products and offerings solve?
Well, I think it's quite easy to say. Today, companies need to differentiate, and it's more complicated than ever. One way to do that, we strongly believe, is by using all the data you have and you get from your customers, from the market, from everything. And to differentiate, you need to be able to use this data in a very smart way through your applications, bringing, all your business differentiators inside that application using the data. And doing this cannot really be done by off-the-shelf software. You really need to build your own applications using your own data. Therefore, you need to leverage teams of good developers. And what MongoDB does today is helping those developers to get the best out of the technology, develop faster, maintain faster, bring new features without the burden of maintaining, of having to cope with all the complexities of the platform, the infrastructure, and many other cumbersome data problems.
Right, yeah. So you mentioned how MongoDB helps developers. So could you give me a little bit more detail of how MongoDB empowers developers in that way?
Yeah, let me think of a way to say that. Look, a developer today is somebody that creates, in a very strange language, code that transforms into the application you use on your phone or on the web. And those applications allow companies to sell products, to differentiate by showing how they do things better than others, and sometimes also to serve internal users with specific internal applications. These developers, their intelligence, their skills is into creating those very specific applications and focusing on that. In the past, developers had to cope a lot with how they would use the data even before they start thinking about the application. Because the technologies like relational databases that were created 40 years ago and are still very much used today require you to structure the data in a very strange way, splitting the data in hundreds or thousands of tables, and then you can build your application. But at some point, you'll realize the data is not exactly fitting what you want to do with it. So you might want to change the structure of the data, but it takes time. And then you need to change your application to again match the structure, probably having to step down your application. Like in the past, we would do weekends. I remember that. On Saturday morning, we'll stop all the system, full downtime, make the updates. Sunday night, everything was over, and then you cross your fingers that on Monday morning, it's going to work. MongoDB brings a completely different landscape. We have created something called the document model, which is a very new and specific way to store the information inside of the databases. And this way matches exactly how you're going to use the data inside your application. And if later on you need to make a change, it's super flexible. You can change either the database or the application without any downtime, anytime. And that's what companies are wanting today. You know what? If you look at Facebook, for example, I think they make up to 10 to 15 new integration, new features, updates every day. And most of the time, you just don't realize it. And that's how we make life of developers easier. Just do your code, insert your new features, upgrade, update. We take care of everything else, and we can do that on the run without downtime.
Right, yeah. So yeah, you mentioned how things like your document model can increase developer productivity. Could you go into a little bit more detail of how, yeah, that increases their productivity up? And also, is there anything else that MongoDB offers that does that?
Yes, the document model is definitely, like say, the foundation of how you use MongoDB, but we are more than that. MongoDB is an application data platform. We call it MongoDB Atlas. It's on the cloud. It's in the cloud in the various cloud providers. And along with the database and the document model, we provide a lot of different tools that allow both the developers and also people managing infrastructure to accelerate the time to market of your application. So for example, in the past, you would have to, install new machines, new servers in your data centers, set up security and everything. Nowadays, if you need a database on MongoDB Atlas, you just have to click a few buttons and it's on, or use automation products like Terraform, for example. And this will very quickly set up fully operational and totally managed databases out of the box with full security, allowing the developers to use the brand new tools that we have integrated into Atlas, like search, for example, or charting, visualization, or mobile sync. All those features that would normally require a lot of different softwares to be installed, learned, integrated, are completely and fully embedded inside the platform, and developers can just use them for their application along with the database. But that's really a big gain in terms of time for development, but also ramp up into learning those new technologies and using them.
Right, yeah. So what would your advice and MongoDB's advice be to companies looking to digitally transform like so many other companies and businesses are right now?
You know that I think it was Forrester, I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but there was a study done 1 year ago about all the companies who started the journey to digitalizing the business. And most of them said that this transformation failed. I think something like 75% said that it failed. And the biggest reason was because they underestimated the complexity of working with A, the data they have, and B, the vast amount of applications they already have that needed to be transformed into this new way of doing things. So my advice to most companies, and I have very good examples in Australia of people who did that, is to start small. If you think about a company like Woolworths, for example, Woolworths has thousands of applications. And obviously they wouldn't be able to transform and move everything into the cloud from day one. So what they did was super smart. They started very small with non-so-critical application. I think it was the e-receipt in this case. And in a few weeks, built up a new version of that, working on MongoDB Atlas, put that live on production, see how it worked, use that as some kind of training for best practices and developers, using all the resources and the support we could give. And then from this point on, started to grow the usage, bring more application on board, and ended up having a lot of critical apps now in MongoDB Atlas, but starting small. That's probably the best thing to do.
Brilliant. Sounds good. I've got one final question for you, Guillaume. How can viewers get in touch with MongoDB? What's the best way for them to contact you?
Do you mean developers or companies?
Both.
Okay, so if you're a technical guy and you want to, get in touch with the technology, the best thing to do is probably to go to MongoDB Atlas. So you go to mongodb.com, there are buttons everywhere. Just click there, it's free. You can set up your own environment. It obviously has a few limitations, but you can really test everything. All the features are here and you can check how it works. And if you have questions, there's a chat box here linking to real people that can answer your questions and help you start. Now, as a company, it's probably best to get in touch with my team or with the sales team, for example. There's a contact form. I think it's mongodb.com/contact. And we will respond very quickly and help you in your new journey.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, that brings us to an end to today's interview. Thanks for joining me today, Guillaume.
Thanks, Nick. That was a pleasure.